Without any exaggeration, I can say that I'm really proud to be on the board of this beautiful university. Now, what makes this place so wonderful? Is it our buildings and the great architecture, like in this beautiful building? Is it our well thought out governance structure and administrative processes? No, those are mere tools. What makes this place so wonderful are the men and women who work here, the support staff and the academic staff, who day after day after day give everything for their university. I've been in this job now for a little over a year, and I'm so impressed with the dedication and the drive and the determination of everybody who works for this university. And that is what makes this place a wonderful place, the people who work here. And because we produce world-class research and because we do really good teaching, does that mean that we do everything we can for the men and women who work at our university? Does it mean that we're perfect? No, it doesn't mean that we're perfect at all. And there actually is a lot that needs to be improved, as in every university, I guess. But one of the elements of our university that's very near and dear to my heart that I think that really needs improvement is our diversity. Because Leiden University is by far not diverse enough. And just to give you a few statistics, we have at the moment 27% students who are from an ethnic minority group. 17% of those are from non-Western ethnic minority background. We literally have no associate or full professors who are from a non-Western ethnic minority background. And we have only a handful of associate and full professors who are from another ethnic minority background. So those students don't have any role models. About 55% of our master's graduates are women at the moment, and we lose women in every step after the master's degree if they choose to pursue an academic career. We have 45% PhD students who are women, and at every step there are fewer women. And in the end, that means we have about 19% women in our full professor group. So in that sense, Leiden University is not at all diverse. And things, I think, need to change. And I want to talk to you today about three questions, or actually I want to ask three questions. One is, why is this the case? And the second question is, does it matter? Do we care? And the third question is, if we care, what can we do about it? And I'm going to talk only about the first two questions, because the third one will be answered in the workshops this afternoon and by the wonderful speakers who come after me. So I'm already giving away the answer to the second question, which was, does it matter? I think it does matter. So why is it that we have a non-diverse university? What's going on in terms of gender equality and in terms of ethnic minority careers? There's a lot of literature about this problem. Actually, about gender equality only. Over the last 10, 20 years, there have been more than 1,500 scientific articles. And it's becoming pretty clear from all that research that the one most important determining factor when we talk about lack of diversity in society and institutions, including in academia, is a subtle bias, something that many people aren't even aware of. We just find it more difficult to see certain groups, and in this case we're talking about women and ethnic minorities, as leaders in institutions and as leaders in academia. And that subtle bias happens at almost every step in people's careers. And many small molehills then in the end become one big mountain. And I think that is something that we need to become much more aware of, which is not an easy task. And just to illustrate this point, because I'm not going to be exhaustive, and of course I can't talk about the 1,500 plus articles, I just want to tell you a few examples, talk to you about a few examples that I've recently encountered. One is an article that just got published last month in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, a US journal, and it was the account of a randomized controlled trial. Researchers from the University of Yale in the United States actually asked 8 top universities and scientists in those top universities to partake in this particular study. And they were asked to rate applicants at the PhD level, they just completed their PhD, for a job as head of a lab, of a large lab. And the letters, they didn't see the people, they just got letters. So scientists from 8 universities got a bunch of letters and had to rate these applicants. And the question was, would you offer this person a job? How much salary would you give them? And would you be willing to mentor them? And it was a very clever design because it actually was randomized by sex. And the only difference between the 2 groups of CVs and application letters was the name. One half had a male name and the other half had a female name. So these scientists then looked at these applicants and decided about their careers, these fake applicants, obviously. And it was really interesting what the outcome was. Men were offered on average a salary of $30,000 a year, while the women were offered a salary of $26,000 a year. And remember, these are exactly the same. The only thing that was different were their names. Men were more likely to be mentored by these scientists who judged the CVs than the women were. And men were much more likely to be offered the job as head of the lab than the women were. And what I found, this was an outcome that wasn't really all that stunning because we know this from a lot of research. But the interesting aspect of this particular study was that it was the first time that we looked at promotion processes at relatively low stage in the careers just after the PhD. But what I found really stunning is that the male scientists and the female scientists who did the judging were just as likely to favor men over women. And of course that's not because these women don't think that women, young women, can be good lab heads. It's just in their subconscious associations that they have with these kind of leadership roles. So I think that that's a very important thing to realize, and it's something we all do, men and women. Another bit of evidence towards the same problem is a report from about 10 years ago from the Institutes of Medicine in the United States, who were asked by the American Congress to study disparities in healthcare. It's been known for a long time, and the problem is very similar in the Netherlands as it is in the US, that ethnic minority groups have much poorer health outcomes than people from a white, in this case, European American background. And it was often assumed that it was because of lifestyle, because of socioeconomic status, because of people not going to a doctor as frequently when they were of poorer background than when they had more money. And there was a group of scientists who actually looked at all the data. They studied about over 100 different studies looking into disparities in healthcare. And much to their shock, this report actually did cause a shockwave in the US. One very important element in the poorer health outcomes appear to be the biases that physicians and nurses had towards Black patients and Latino patients compared to white patients. And I want to read you just one paragraph from their final report in which they talk about this particular issue. And they say, a large body of research in social psychology has demonstrated that stereotyping is an almost universal human cognitive function. It's a process by which people use social groups such as sex and race to gather, process, and recall information about other people. Stereotyping helps people to organize a very complex world and can give us more confidence in our abilities to understand the situation and respond to it, particularly when we lack information. There is, however, and this is a crucial sentence, a downside to stereotyping, in that it's the nature of stereotypes to be biased or unfair. And then this continues over 4 decades of research, the 100 articles I just mentioned, in cognitive and social psychology reveals that stereotypes are automatically activated, that is, they're generated without a conscious effort, are held even by people who truly believe that they do not judge others based on social categories, but have been unconsciously influenced by the implicitly biased stereotypes in American society. And they affect how we process and recall information about others, and it guides our expectations and perceptions and shapes our personal interactions, producing self-fulfilling prophecies. And I think this is a really crucial bit of insight that American doctors and nurses gained from this very important report. And a third example I want to give you is from our own university, actually from this very faculty. In the summer of this year, a report was published by a group of lawyers from the Faculty of Law at the University of Leiden, who looked at judgment by Dutch judges, and they looked at ethnic background in the people who were suspects. And these were not very serious crimes, were theft and other petty crimes, and the judges had to decide whether to send people to jail or to give them a fine or let them do community service. And suspects who had a non-Dutch look, it wasn't specified that they actually had to be a member of an ethnic minority group, but who looked non-Dutch, were 5 times as likely to be sentenced to jail time. And when they didn't speak Dutch, they were actually 20 times as likely to be sentenced to jail time. And this was after controlling for all the factors that the researchers could control for, such as socioeconomic status and, of course, the severity of the crime and many other factors. And this particular type of research actually made the headlines too. And there were statements like, how is it possible that even judges are biased? Just like in the Institutes of Medicine report, it was said, how is it possible that even doctors and nurses who want to deliver good quality healthcare are biased? Just as it was said in the article from the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, how is it possible that even academics are biased? Well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're all biased without knowing it. And if we don't accept that, if we don't want to change that, it's going to be very difficult to create more diversity. And I think that's what we need to do today, to talk about how we can change this. Because I think we should care. I already gave it away in my short introduction. And why should we care? What happens when we are a non-diverse university? I think we should care for 2 reasons. And one is what's called the social justice argument. I think it's a really bad idea for a society, including for a university, to disadvantage large groups of people compared to other groups. It's just not good human practice to basically have a system in which talented, motivated people are less likely to succeed just because they belong to a certain group. That's the social justice argument. But another argument which may be even more compelling for our university is the argument of good science. We just don't produce as good science when we're so uniform, when we're not diverse. And why is that? That is the case for 2 reasons. The first reason is universities are part of society. Universities actually should lead society. And scientists in universities bring their own personal backgrounds into their own research. And I think that is really important. Scientists don't do research just based on algorithms or certain scientific tools of math and evaluation. They also define the areas in which they do research from their own personal backgrounds. And if we have a group that's very homogeneous in our scientific leadership, if basically our leaders, the people who define the research, are white and male and middle-aged, will do different research than when our researchers are diverse. And our society is diverse. Society asks for solutions for problems that are being defined by more than just a segment that is white and male and middle-aged. So if we want to really be leading in society, if we want to use our beautiful research to change society for the better, we need to have researchers who are, as a group, all around and who are able to understand the needs of society and who are able to implement the outcomes of their research into that very society. So that's one part of the argument for scientific content. And the other part is that if we don't use all these talented, driven people, it's a huge waste of a really large human talent pool. Just think of all the intelligent, driven, ambitious women and people belonging to another group than the white male norm, who are just not capable of giving us, the University of Leiden, all their capabilities. And I think that's a huge waste. So in that sense, the quality of our science, the quality of our research is diminished when we don't make use of all the talent that is available. So I think those 2 arguments, for me, are very important arguments when we try to answer the question, should we even care? Why is this lack of diversity a problem? So what should universities do? What should the University of Leiden do? And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're having some wonderful speakers this morning. We're having workshops in the afternoon where people are going to be talking about it more. And this day is the outcome of a process that has taken place over the last year. I came into this university as a member of the board a little over a year ago, as I just said. And one of my first encounters with a group of a disadvantaged group was a meeting I had with ethnic minority students, about 15 of them who are all from a non-Dutch background, who came to talk to me at my invitation. They were gracious enough to accept it, about their struggles through the Dutch education system and potentially about their struggles at our university. And that group was unbelievably inspiring and motivating to me. And some of their stories about what they had gone through to even make it to our university and what they're still going through today literally brought tears to my eyes. Many of these people were the first in their families to go to university. Many had been advised to go to a polytechnic or a HBO, MBO, because their teachers felt that they really wouldn't be able to succeed in higher academic environment. Many of them had been held back by their parents to study something like linguistics or biology or anything other than law and medicine, because their parents thought that an academic training should by definition lead to being a doctor or a lawyer, and all these other studies were very unfamiliar to them. And many of them in their high school years had to hide their face because they so wanted to fit in. There was one student who was actually purposely sent by his parents to an all-white school so he could succeed in Dutch society, but he had to not talk about the fact that he was not eating during the day for a long time during of course, because of his Muslim faith, and his classmates weren't supposed to know. And there were lots of other things that these people encountered that Dutch white students never are even aware of. And for me, that was an unbelievably inspiring occasion to encounter. And it made me realize that I really want to help the University of Leiden become a more diverse place. And the gender issue as a problem has been near to my heart for a long time. And those two issues combined, I think, basically tell us we need to change and we need to be more inclusive and more accepting also to other groups for our science and for the betterment of our university. So what I did after realizing all these things, I got together a group of people from our own university, very enthusiastic, driven, wonderful people who came together, I think it was somewhere in November or December of last year. And we had, for me, a very pivotal meeting where we basically discussed what is our university about. We didn't say, okay, which HR measures do we need to improve the study success of ethnic minority students? That was a program that has been running for quite a few years now. Which HR measures do we need to get more women to the top of our university, which is another program that we already have. We started by saying, what are we as a University of Leiden? Where do we want to be in society? What should our feeling, our heart, our image be? And we also talked about the content of our research. And there are many people at this university who study identity, who study organizational psychology, who know what it's like to be looking at the world from a different angle than just the cultural angle that we've all been brought up with as white Dutch people. And that group has helped me write a document which is now in the pre-final phases. And it's a position paper basically on diversity at our university. And for me, this day is sort of a kickoff, hopefully, of a movement towards creating a different kind of university, towards keeping all the talent and the momentum and the wonderful research we're doing and basically upgrading it to become even better and even more suitable to the society at large. Because our new slogan is, at Leiden, you discover the world. I hope I'm saying it right now. And basically, what we're trying to do is be looking out and be in Leiden a center of learning about global issues and not just about the very limited issues of our own Dutch society. And I want to tell you who these people are, because I think it's important that you know their names, and I hope that you're going to see a lot of them over the next few years. I'm just going to read you the list of names of people who are in my steering group. It's Rick Lawson, Magiel van Krevel, Willem Heijzer, lots of people are here today, which is wonderful. Colette van Laar, Rolf Oosterlo, Jaap Brouwer, Henk Dekker, Naomi Ellemers, Asghar Sayed Gorab, Monique Omes, Nieke Campagne, Marcel Voice, and Sabina Bijnen. And together they've written this wonderful document. And actually, Aya Ezawa, you'll see her later today, she's going to moderate a lot of the sessions, was the person who did most of the writing and who really dedicated lots of time and energy to writing this document. So you'll get to see it within the next few weeks. We're going to use the outcomes of the workshops this afternoon to fine-tune the document and make it even more suited towards all your needs. And then within the next few months, we're going to circulate it to different people in the university, and hopefully that will then land in a concrete plan with a budget and with all kinds of steps that we want to take that we're going to start hopefully somewhere early in 2013. So things I feel are really going to change, and I hope this day is going to give a big incentive for that. Because eventually it's all about the people who work here, and even though we have a beautiful place and a wonderful university that does create great research and very good teaching, I think we can be even better at what we want to do. And we need your help in this. And I'm really hoping that today is going to be the first day of a long period, because this is not something that's a project of just a few months, of a long period in which we'll start implementing all the things that really need to be implemented very, very urgently. So thank you for coming here today. I hope you're going to help us as a university become a better place. And now I want to introduce some of the speakers for this morning. And I'm going to introduce very briefly the two speakers for after the break, because Aya is going to introduce them more. One is Damon Williams. He's from the University of Madison, Wisconsin, and he actually is a diversity officer for that university. And we're hoping to hear from him how that's being done there and what the advantages are of having a dedicated person look at diversity in the university. And the other one is Paul Thayer. He's from the University of Colorado, and he has a lot of experience in diversity in the educational environment, and he'll tell us a lot about that. And the first speaker I now want to introduce is Professor Kurt Rice. He's Vice-Rector of the University of Tromsø in northern Norway. And we've met in a European project called GenSet, Gender in Science, Engineering and Technology, that basically dealt with how to get more women at the top of academia in these areas. And he's been very successful in his own university at increasing the number of female professors, and he's going to talk about that in one of the workshops this afternoon. And his university has been so successful it actually received a prize from the Norwegian Ministry of Education for all his efforts. And I think he personally received a prize from his university. So he's been dedicating a lot of time and energy as a board member to this particular issue, so he can be a wonderful role model for us. He knows Leiden a little bit. He spent a year of sabbatical in Leiden. He actually knows how to ride a bike. I've been privy to witnessing that. So Kurt, can I ask you to come forward and tell us about Norway and what you've achieved there? Thank you very much.